Imagine secretly funding your mother's lavish millionaire lifestyle for 7 straight years, only to have her publicly humiliate you and throw you out of her mansion. Well, that's exactly what happened to me. And here is how I taught her the ultimate lesson in financial reality and self-respect. My name is Ruby Coleman. I'm 34 years old and I run a highly successful AI software company based out of Austin, Texas. But my life wasn't always boardrooms and 8-figure buyouts. To understand what happened, you have to go back 7 years to the day my father passed away. When my dad died, he left my mother with nothing but a mountain of hidden debt. His consulting business had secretly been bleeding money for years. He had taken out massive loans, maxed out multiple credit cards, and taken second mortgages just to maintain my mother's obsession with high society. My mother, Eleanor, was a woman whose entire identity was wrapped up in country club memberships, designer labels, and what her wealthy friends thought of her. When the dust settled after the funeral, the reality was terrifying. The sprawling estate she lived in had a $450,000 mortgage hanging over it. She had over $85,000 in credit card debt, and property taxes alone were $20 grand a year. She was 60 days away from total bankruptcy and foreclosure. At the time, I was 27. I had just sold my very first tech startup for a little over $10 million. My mother had no idea about my financial success. She never asked about my little computer hobby, as she called it, and I preferred to keep it that way. But seeing her completely broken, sobbing on the living room floor about losing her social status, broke my heart. So I made a decision I would regret for years, but one that ultimately taught me the most valuable lesson of my life. Through my wealth manager, I set up an anonymous blind trust. I arranged for this trust to automatically pay off her mortgage, cover her property taxes, pay her luxury car lease, clear her credit cards every month, and even fund her extravagant $20,000 a year country club fees. I wanted her to grieve without the stress of losing her home. My mother received a formal letter from a law firm stating that an anonymous benefactor who greatly respected my late father had set up a trust for her. She didn't even question it. Her ego was so inflated that she genuinely believed she simply deserved it. For 7 years, I was the ghost in the machine. I funded her entire reality. I paid for her European vacations, her $5,000 designer handbags, and her lavish garden parties. Meanwhile, I lived modestly. I reinvested my money, grew my second company, and built my net worth to over $60 million. I didn't need flashy things to know my worth. But my mother, she despised my lifestyle. This all came to a boiling point exactly 1 month ago during her annual spring charity gala. It was a massive event with over 100 elite guests. I decided to drop by, wearing a simple, comfortable, sustainable linen dress. No diamonds, no Rolex, just me. I was standing near the catering tent, having a wonderful conversation with one of the serving staff about his culinary school ambitions. That's when my mother stormed over. Her face was red with fury.
"Ruby, what on earth are you doing?" she hissed, grabbing my arm. "I'm talking to David," I replied calmly. In front of at least 20 guests, she lost her mind. "You are an absolute embarrassment. Look at you. You look like you buy your clothes from a thrift store. You come to my house, eat my food, and socialize with the help. You are ruining my image." "Mom, it's just a dress," I said, trying to keep the peace. "No," she yelled, her voice echoing across the manicured lawn. The music stopped. People turned to stare. "You have always been a disappointment. You have no class, no ambition, and you don't belong here. Get out of my house, now." To emphasize her point, she dramatically tossed the rest of her champagne right at my feet, splashing my shoes. Silence fell over the entire garden. Over 100 people watched as my own mother treated me like trash on the bottom of her shoe. My cheeks burned. But in that exact moment, a profound realization washed over me. The fog lifted. I looked at the house I was paying for. I looked at her dress. The dress my money bought. I looked at the champagne funded by my hard work. I was literally paying for my own abuse. I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I simply looked her dead in the eye, smiled softly, and said, "Understood. Enjoy your party, mother." I walked to my car with my head held high. The moment I closed the car door, I didn't feel sadness. I felt liberated. I pulled out my phone and called my wealth manager. "Marcus," I said, "the Eleanor Trust. Shut it down." "Ruby, are you sure? All of it?" "Every single cent," I commanded. "Stop the mortgage payments, cancel the auto pay on the credit cards, withdraw the guarantor status on the car lease, terminate the country club dues, cut the power, the water, everything. Do it today." By the second week, the bank had sent a notice of default on the mortgage. Since I had formally withdrawn as the guarantor, the bank required her to prove her income to keep the loan. She had none. My phone started blowing up. First, it was her complaining about bank errors. I ignored them. Then she started showing up at my corporate office. I instructed security to turn her away. I was done being her emotional punching bag. By week 3, the reality of her situation had set in. Her luxury SUV was repossessed from her driveway in broad daylight, right in front of her country club friends. The humiliation she felt must have been unimaginable, but I felt absolutely no pity. She eventually hired a cheap lawyer to look into the anonymous trust, demanding to know why it was stopped. The lawyer, of course, discovered the truth. He found the LLC tracing back to my wealth management firm. When she realized that the daughter she had called a classless embarrassment was the millionaire funding her entire life, she broke. She sent a frantic, tear-stained letter to my office via courier. The arrogance was completely gone. "Ruby, my God, I didn't know," the letter read. "I am so sorry. Please, they are taking the house next week. I have nothing. I have nowhere to go. My friends have abandoned me. Please, you have to help me. I am your mother." I sat at my desk, looking out over the Austin skyline, and I wrote my final response to her. "Mother, for 7 years, I gave you the world. I asked for nothing in return, not even a thank you. But instead of grace, you chose cruelty. You chose status over your own flesh and blood. You humiliated me because you thought your money made you superior, never realizing that the money was mine. I am not doing this to destroy you. I am doing this to protect myself. True self-respect means knowing when to walk away from toxic people, even if they are family. You spent your whole life judging people by what they could afford. Now it's time you learn how to afford yourself. Consider this your final and most valuable lesson in financial independence. Do not contact me again." I signed it, mailed it, and blocked her number for good. Last I heard from my aunt, the house was sold at a foreclosure auction. My mother was forced to move into a tiny one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of the city. She finally had to get a job at 62, working as a cashier at a local retail store. The high society friends she sacrificed our relationship for, they don't even return her calls anymore. Some people might think I was too harsh, but let me tell you something about human psychology and boundaries. Gifting resources to someone who disrespects you isn't kindness, it's self-sabotage. You are rewarding their bad behavior. I didn't take revenge. I simply stopped being a victim. I removed my energy, my money, and my presence from a place where it wasn't valued. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let gravity take over and let people face the absolute reality of their own choices. Since that day, my business has doubled in revenue. I sleep better, I smile more, and I recently donated $1 million to a charity that helps young women build financial literacy. Never let anyone make you feel small, especially when you are the one holding up their sky. Know your worth, set your boundaries in stone, and never be afraid to let people fall when they push you away.